Welcome, everyone, to the Deep Dive. I'm Erik Voss, and we're doing a live stream this morning. Thank you all so much for joining me. I'm doing a test right now. Just want to make sure everyone can hear me, that I sound okay. And hopefully it all works out. This is kind of a last-minute thing that we threw together. If anybody, make sure you can hear me. Very quiet, you say. Okay, let's see. Maybe I can up the volume. How is that? Is that better, everyone? I want to make sure everyone can hear me loud and clear this morning. If not, I'll just scream and I'll wake up my neighbors who have the night shift because I can't sleep. I can't sleep because of this guy. I don't know where I'm pointing. This guy right here, Mephisto. That's who we're talking about this morning. Levels are a little okay. Okay. I'm gonna be monitoring the levels as we go. Yes. So welcome once again to the Deep Dive. I'm Erik Voss. You may know me from the New Rockstars YouTube channel. This here, the Deep Dive, is our second channel in the New Rockstars Network. We launched back in February, and I am so honored that so many of you have jumped on this train with us. Many of you knew me from the Mephisto train back in the WandaVision era, and it was one of my favorite times in my life as a YouTuber. I got to hang out with all of you every Friday. We got to go into the depths of theory crafting. We got to look like fools together. But you know what? We are a little bit older, a little bit wiser, and I'm proud of that time. So what I'm doing today in this live stream is talking about my history with this asshole and how this all came about. What it really means to all of us, how this affected the way people consume these types of shows and the way we look at them, the way theories sometimes can replace what is actually in these episodes and movies. Now, if you can support us here at the Deep Dive, we would be so grateful for that. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe. I know I initially said that this is March 31st. I was going to try to have our Interstellar Deep Dive come out today. We are currently most of the way through it. It's going to be coming out next week, a week from today, Friday, April 7th, which will be my birthday. And I'm really excited to be able to release that video on my birthday because when I went into it, I always loved Interstellar. To me, it was like mid-tier Nolan. When I rewatched it, I was like, oh, this is top-tier Nolan. This is such an incredible movie, and I want to spend some extra time researching it. You'll see when you see the video that there's a whole other aspect to this movie that I didn't want to rush, and I think it's going to be a better video for it. So thank you for your patience. That'll be the next deep dive coming out on the channel a week from now. And one thing I wanted to do with these live breakdowns is kind of give you all a peek behind the scenes at my process as a YouTuber, as someone who covers this kind of news, someone who does this kind of analysis. And we've done 3 of these live streams so far. But we haven't really had a chance to talk about like the process of doing this kind of work and how challenging and how rewarding it can be, and the weird stuff that comes with it. Let's see, Karen Seti, thank you so much for your super chat. That's very, very kind of you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm going to try to do a live AMA here and answer as many questions as I can along the stream as it comes out. Yeah, and we also have some merch that you can get to support us at, let's see, at nerdriot.shop. I don't know if this will show up on screen because I'm blue screened, and a lot of my stuff is blue. But yeah, it's not translucent like this when you get it at the shop. But there's a whole deep dive collection that I would love to see if you guys wouldn't mind. Okay, so let's talk about Mephisto. Let us talk about Mephisto. So Mephisto, it's so weird how this Marvel Comics entity has become what I am arguably best known for in certain circles online. Mephisto, if you don't know, is basically Marvel's devil character. He's appeared in many different eras of the comics in many different forms, but basically he is, the whole Christian concept of the devil with the red skin, the horns often. Mephisto is kind of like that mythological figure embodied and screws with the lives of the Marvel heroes in many really fun ways. But I wasn't really into Mephisto from a young age or anything like that. Maybe he cursed me in a way that I didn't realize. But, I'm best, when it comes to Mephisto, I think I'm best known for being the guy when we were covering WandaVision to stay on what was called the Mephisto train all the way through. I speculated strongly that Mephisto was going to show up in WandaVision, and of course, he did not. He was not there explicitly. I think his effect might have been there, but no. The character did not show up. A lot of us thought he would. Yet, the whole idea and concept of Mephisto, I think, has been such a powerful presence so that, 2 years later, we are still talking about him in almost every Marvel title. And I think even Marvel Studios is kind of like aware of this, and they are playing with us. I don't think it's just targeted at me, but they keep sneaking in devil imagery into all their marketing so that we're going to play this game every time they drop a trailer. And I honestly think that's hilarious. I love that they do that. But I still think 2 years later, Mephisto is misunderstood. I think I properly did not understand what this whole phenomenon was as I was going through it. And I think a lot of people have distorted what the meaning of it was as we went through it and view it as something that we should be ashamed of. But when I meet a lot of you in person, which is like my favorite part of this job, whether, it's at a convention like we were at WonderCon last weekend, or if I run into any of you around San Francisco, or if I'm ever in LA, wherever, Mephisto always comes up, and it's always like a nice positive thing. Like, people are always like, you know what, I was with you. Like, don't listen to the haters. You were right. And I was like, I don't know if I was explicitly right about WandaVision, but I appreciate the support. I think it was something that brought a lot of us together. And I think that it was a good thing, looking back at it. So just to talk about a bit of a chronology here with how this came about. So I hadn't really talked about Mephisto a lot on the New Rockstars channel. I started making videos for New Rockstars in 2016. So from 2016 through early 2021, I had been making YouTube content, a lot of it very successful, some of it experimental and didn't really work out, but I learned a lot, and I thought my legacy as a YouTuber was already set. I thought I'd already peaked in any kind of popularity I would have in my life, and I was happy with that. I was just happy to have a job as a YouTuber, and I didn't think anything else. I don't think anybody would have known me for anything more than just a guy who makes YouTube videos about Marvel and Star Wars and Game of Thrones and Rick and Morty and that kind of stuff. But then WandaVision happened, and everything changed. We can go back and look at the analytics on the New Rockstars channel, and bizarrely, we got a sudden surge of subscribers and viewers on WandaVision alone. We were all shocked by it. It honestly changed the game for New Rockstars in every possible way. The success of WandaVision and the popularity of that show. I saw another super chat come through here. GPG, Eric, we thank you for all the hard work and the brilliant conspiracies. Keep it up. Thank you, GPG. I'm going to try my best. So with WandaVision coming, I think I had mentioned Mephisto twice on the New Rockstars channel. I went back through all my scripts. And I was trying to find all the mentions of Mephisto. There was, I believe, one when we were doing Infinity War content because I talked about how the character of Ebony Maw was changed from Mephisto in the comics. Mephisto was Thanos' minion. That whole line of "my humble personage," that's a direct quote from Mephisto in the Infinity Gauntlet comics. So I think I mentioned that in one of our Infinity War videos. And then otherwise, it was during March or April or May or June of 2020, we were doing this Infinity Saga rewatch. When the world shut down because of COVID, we kind of hunkered down and we're like, well, let's go back and rewatch and break down all the Marvel movies. And that included the 2012 Avengers movie, which did have, I think, to date, the only real mention of Mephisto in the MCU. On the file that Nick Fury gives Captain America when he's briefing him about the threat of the Tesseract, Mephisto is mentioned with the Infinity Gems. So I think that was a thing from the prop makers from that movie, just trying to work in a nod to the comics with like Thanos' known associate being Mephisto, and they were still called Infinity Gems. They didn't really have the plan yet in place that they were going to call it Infinity Stones, and which was going to be which, what colors they were going to be, where they were going to show up. So this was just kind of an early phase 1 to phase 2 Easter egg. So that's it. That's the only times I had mentioned Mephisto. So I wasn't like Mephisto crazed from the beginning. And then what happened was in June 2020, Evan Peters being in WandaVision leaked. This was not something Marvel announced. It just kind of came out, I believe, through The Hollywood Reporter. And everyone got very excited because until then, all we really knew about WandaVision was what was announced in July 2019 at Comic-Con, that, Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany were going to be teaming up. It was probably going to be based on some version of the West Coast Avengers, because that's where they come together. But, they're often a pairing in the comics. And that Catherine Hahn was going to be playing, quote, a nosy neighbor. And I think the common assumption is that she was going to be playing Agatha Harkness. That was early. That was like fall 2019. Oh, Mezzo JD. Oh, my good friend. Thank you so much, Eric. Glad to see you here. Support for you and all the team members of Deep Dive. Thank you so much, Mezzo. I really appreciate that. And Mr. Purple Lightsaber, Eric, just admit I've been Mephisto all along. Well, I wouldn't admit that. I like that line from Zodiac, where John Carroll Lynch is at the end. He finally gets wise to these detectives, and he goes, I'm not the Zodiac. But if I was, I wouldn't tell you. Such a creepy moment. That's how I approach Mephisto. Mr. Purple Lightsaber again. You want Mephisto on that wall. You need Mephisto on that wall. Well, that is a different character actor named Jack Nicholson. And yeah, I think he would be an amazing Mephisto, personally. Jack Nicholson as Mephisto. I mean, they couldn't afford him. That guy. Woo! Okay. So yeah, Evan Peters gets announced. I make 2 videos about it. This is June 2020, and the first one I make is what we all assume, that he's going to be playing Pietro Maximoff Quicksilver, because, coming from the X-Men movies, it's going to be a show about Wanda Maximoff. Of course, he's going to be playing her brother, and this is going to be a Fox X-Men crossover. It's happening. We're all very excited. That was my first video. But then my second video was, that night I went home and I went home. I was at home. I never left home then. I read some of those West Coast Avenger comic issues, and I read through the whole idea of Agatha Harkness babysitting the 2 sons, and I read this part where it's revealed Master Pandemonium was puppeting them, and then later on I learned that Master Pandemonium was a minion, a servant to Mephisto, and I was like, okay, if they're going to be doing this specific run of the comics, and it seems like a lot of things are lining up, I think there's a good possibility that Evan Peters, based off of what I knew him beyond playing Pietro Maximoff in the X-Men movies from American Horror Story, he's a great horror actor. And then we've seen this with Dahmer as well. Like, the guy would make a pretty good Mephisto if they want to go in that direction. So I made a second video that said, okay, an alternate theory, maybe Mephisto. And then it was quiet for a while. The Mephisto train was still at the station, I would say. But then the trailers came out in September 2020. And I think many of us saw those trailers, and some of us were just, trying to make sense of what WandaVision was going to be. But some of us saw it and immediately got a little creeped out. We sensed that there was something insidious in this show. And, I grew up with the show Lost on ABC, and that show definitely primed me to look at all of media, movies, TV in a different way. I'm constantly looking for the smoke monster, for the Jacob, for the Dharma Initiative sound effects and everything. And I think without Lost, I would not be a YouTuber breaking down Marvel and Star Wars and that kind of thing now. That just changed everything for me. I think it remains a brilliant show. Not a perfect show. Obviously, there are some episodes, some seasons that didn't connect with everybody, but I still love it. It holds a special place in my heart. I think it's one of my favorite shows of all time. And I think anybody who watched Lost the way I watched Lost, watched WandaVision in a different way. And I think many of you were on the Mephisto train with me. Like, you got it. You sensed it. But even then, I believe that first trailer, all I did was just sense that something was creepy about it. But then in December, there was a second trailer where specifically something was really creepy about it. I think there was a shot where you see like a shadowy figure coming through the barrier. The music was the Monkees' Daydream Believer, unless I'm mistaken on that one. It felt very Truman Showy to me, and everything we had heard about it that was being reported was really, really just disturbing. Another super chat. Thank you, Whiskey Bravo 85. How would you script Mephisto's first on-screen scene in the MCU? Thanks for all the work. What I would do is like another version of Agatha All Along, or like, you know how Luis goes back through the montage of him narrating all the different characters. I would love to see the way Mephisto had affected things that we already saw. I think it'd be really fun if we just showed him in the background of things. I want it to be low key. I don't want like fire and brimstone, insanity, something like from Evil Dead or whatever. What I want is just something very simple on a small set. Like he's just maybe wearing a suit, maybe just wearing whatever he wants. Marvel tends to just suit up people as they are in the comics. I think they're going to be wearing he's probably going to be wearing a big red high collared cape like this guy is ultimately. But I want it to be just kind of in a fun, campy, self aware way. I'm going to think about that. That's a really good question, Whiskey Bravo 85. And Scott D, yeah, you get Lost. Absolutely, Lost was a game changer in TV. My favorite show ever. Did you listen to all the podcasts and read the fan websites? I wasn't into podcasts yet because I wasn't very sophisticated in that regard, but I did read every blog that I could find, specifically Jeff Jensen's recaps on Entertainment Weekly. And that guy is like a hero of mine. I believe he is a writer now. I think he wrote on Legion on FX. And I'm like, man, if I could have his career, just writing fan theories and being so smart and such a good writer that they let you write on TV shows too. Very, very smart and interesting thinker. So what happens during holidays of 2020? A couple interesting things happen. We did not know if we were going to make it in 2021 as a company. WandaVision was like our last hope to stay alive because we were skeleton crew throughout 2020. There wasn't any movie news to talk about. So with WandaVision on the horizon, we're like, okay, I think we were covering The Mandalorian Season 2 at that point. The Mandalorian Season 2 finale happened. Luke Skywalker showed up. And then around that time, someone interviewed Elizabeth Olsen and she goes, oh yeah, we have a cameo like that in our show too. And I said, oh, okay, that's interesting. And we all assumed that was going to be Evan Peters, but like we knew about it. Someone, I think it might have been Paul Bettany, said, I'm not talking about Evan Peters, there's someone else. Like it's someone who's no one has talked about. And then so we were hook, line, and sinker that something crazy was going to happen in this show. And everyone on WandaVision, I think some of the producers, everyone was playing this teasing game for the fans. And I was hanging on every word. WandaVision comes out in mid-January 2021, and we get to see the first 2 episodes right away. And in episode 2, there's that line from Evanora, no, not Evanora, from Dottie. Dottie says, "Well, the devil's in the details, Bev," which a line by itself isn't that big of a deal. But then Agatha leans in and goes, "That's not the only place he is." I had to pause my stream. I texted Jess Clemens and I said, "Have you gotten to episode 2 yet?" And then we just like started screaming with each other for a little bit because we're like, it seems like that is the direction they're going. It was such a suspect line. And I think people forget when it comes to WandaVision, what it felt like week after week trying to figure out what the hell those episodes were. It was a fascinating experience where it seemed like every line, every production detail felt intentional and felt like it had a double and a triple meaning. That's what made that show so fun. So the people who were like, oh, I hated the first 3 episodes of WandaVision because it was just too weird. It was too non-specific. I didn't know what it was. And I said, okay, well, then you just watch shows differently than I do. I love just the mystery crafting of things. I like being in that state of confusion, not really knowing where they're taking me. To me, that's where the possibilities are endless and it can be anything. And so when we get these little teases early on, we know that, you know, the way Catherine Hahn is playing it is she is certainly villainous. And if they are following in these steps, it just feels like they are adapting it almost beat for beat. They keep throwing out, I believe in episode 2, they reference 2 of their neighbors in Westview, New Jersey. That's like their stage names that they use in their magic act. Like all these clues were showing up. Oh, the Grim Reaper helmet showed up in the floorboards. So the stars were all aligning. And then, so New Rockstars just went crazy on this. Like, we're so grateful to have a show to talk about. Let's make as many videos as we can about this because that's when we start to shift to like daily and multiple videos a day. And our breakdowns, it blew our minds how many people got on board with us. Our subscribership leapt up and it was such a fun time. And I felt like I got to connect with everything I love about doing this job. I got to talk about my love of sitcoms. I got to talk about things like The Truman Show and The Matrix and how it influenced this. I got to talk about Jordan Peele's Get Out. And I got to talk about alternate realities and simulation theory and witchcraft and demonology and all this stuff that I've kind of been into. I got to talk about Lost, I believe. That was like a big part of what we were doing. And so it felt like our moment had arrived, and we got to start the train, and it felt like we were headed somewhere. Then something interesting happened. This is what I'm talking about when I say I think Mephisto confirmed is misunderstood. A lot of attention was focused on new rock stars. And you know what? YouTube is now a very crowded scene. It wasn't as crowded when I first started doing it in 2016. And as new rock stars started to grow, we saw a bunch of other channels who started doing what we were doing. Now, I think a lot of those other channels had been doing it on other platforms and other mediums, and saw YouTube as a place where they could have an opportunity to make a living off of this. But I don't know if they appreciated Mephisto the way I did. I think they saw our thumbnails and saw 2 million views, and they said, oh, we should do that too. And then what they started to do with their Mephisto analysis made like more of a joke out of it. And I think what they would do is started to point to anything and call it Mephisto. They would point to any instance of the color red. They would point to any butterfly, the beekeeper, and they turn it into a meme. And that's how I think Twitter interpreted it as well. That's how Reddit interpreted it. And all of us on YouTube who are making content about WandaVision kind of got grouped together in the same category of people who are just going off the rails about pointing to everything. And that just kind of became, that was the narrative about Mephisto. But that was never the case for me. For me, Mephisto wasn't about pointing to any hexagonal shape or anything that was red. It was more of a feeling while we were watching WandaVision that there was something behind the curtain that was not a good presence in Wanda's life, that someone was manipulating her, exploiting her. There was this creepy Rosemary's Baby-esque plot to force her to have children that just felt very gross and cruel. That's the wavelength I was on. It was more of a thematic assessment of what WandaVision was trying to tell as a story. And I think people miss that because now looking back on it, it's hard to remember that's what we were being fueled by, that kind of sense of conspiracy. And I think that is the big misunderstanding for a lot of people on conspiracy thinking, is that it's a feeling. That's what you gotta counteract when you're trying to dispel conspiracy thinking among other areas, is you have to connect with them emotionally, because that's what it always starts by. So episode 3 comes out, episode 4 comes out, that's the Monica episode, episode 5 comes out, that is where Evan Peters shows up, and now people are saying, okay, was this the big cameo? But then Paul Bettany did interviews after this saying, no, we got someone else coming. And the fact that Evan Peters shows up, it felt like the theory crafting was being paid off, that it was worth it for us to keep going along with this. Then episode 6 happens, and that's where I'm like, okay, I'm convinced. They're trick-or-treating, and then Uncle Pietro says, unleash hell, demon spawn, to the 2 boys. And again, we're still in the bubble of Westview, and we just are interpreting everything as a possible clue of them adapting this era of the comics. So for me, I was like, okay, it is happening. It is happening. Episode 7 happens, and it was Agatha all along. And I'm like, okay, maybe she is just the villain, but Paul Bettany keeps saying there's another, he said, an actor who I'd wanted to work with my entire life. And this is, again, after episode 7, so I'm like, okay, someone else is coming. And then I started to assess the show in episode 8, where Agatha was taking Wanda through her memories. And I sensed that something else was at work, even with Agatha. That Agatha, in episode 8, absorbs the power from the other witches of the coven. She seemed to have access to the Darkhold before Evanora told her to, and Agatha specifically said, she's like, I didn't mean to, I didn't know what I was doing. And I was flashing back to the is it the Robert Eggers movie, the Anya Taylor-Joy, The Witch, an amazing horror film. It's the same director who did The Lighthouse, amazing film. And there's the character of Black Phillip, who's the goat, and you don't really know what's going on, but she is a victim of this satanic presence, and I feel like that's what they were pulling for there. She isn't the one doing it all along. Like Agatha and any witch is by definition a spouse of Satan. So there is another piece to this puzzle, and I think we're going to see this in Agatha Coven of Chaos. That like Mephisto has to be there, or some kind of satanic presence has to be there, because otherwise, what are they all doing this for? And who is giving them this power? Um, so yeah, I think there was kind of this. There's this other piece to Agatha that we never really got to see. And one of the things we theorize is that her rabbit, Senior Scratchy, might have been Mephisto in another form. And there was weird stuff going on with Senior Scratchy too. And nothing happened in the finale with him, but we found out later that there was a deleted scene. Senior Scratchy was going to be revealed to be a demon in disguise. But it's going to be more of like a American Werewolf in London kind of thing. It was going to transform back into a demon and chase the kids around the dungeon. So that was redeemed for us. Also, we were fueled by the fact that a lot of the things we were predicting, specifically New Rockstars was predicting about WandaVision, ended up coming exactly right. And the one that like blew my mind was that I predicted I swear to God, I didn't know what episode, I believe it was episode 7, was going to bring, but I knew that there were 6 commercials coming. Because there's only so much time that we were going to stay in the Westview Hex. That was going to be the only time we saw the commercials. And I said, looking at, we had the Yo Magic yogurt. Before that, we had the Lagos paper towels. And I knew that the next one was probably going to be an antidepressant. I didn't know that. That was just my guess, like based off of like the kind of things that are being advertised to Wanda. I'm like, I bet the next one's going to be an antidepressant medication because they all have this thematic connection to what Wanda's going through. And sure enough, that's what happened. So for me, that gave me a lot of confidence. Like, okay, I'm reading the tea leaves correctly. So when the WandaVision finale happens, Mephisto does not show up. And I remember watching the episode, and then there was 2 post-credit scenes. One was, you know what, actually, I have to confess this. I don't think I've ever told anyone this before, but while I was watching the episode, I was getting through towards the end of the battle, and once Agatha's defeated, I was like, oh. And I do that thing on Disney Plus where you can run your cursor along the buffering bar, and see like a little thumbnail preview. And I went through the credits, and I saw a post-credit scene, and then I saw a Skrull face, and I was like, oh no, they're doing Skrulls. They're not doing Mephisto. So I watched through the credits, and I was just kind of like, all right, well, how am I going to explain this? And then we go to the second post-credit scene, and I lost my mind. I was like, oh my God, we're doing a Sam Raimi swooping shot into a cabin. It feels very Evil Dead. We know Sam Raimi's directing Multiverse of Madness. We go through the halls. We see Wanda on the front porch. There's going to be someone else in the back room. And it wasn't Mephisto. It was Wanda astral projecting, which is also creepy in its own way. So Mephisto didn't show up. And I went to a very dark place because the only people I heard from during that time were the people who came onto the Mephisto train late. Probably, I think there's a lot of people who didn't care about Mephisto until episode 6, until that Unleashed Hell demon spawn. And then they were on it for like 2 weeks. And then episode 7 came out and we learned it was Agatha all along, and they immediately jumped off. But I didn't jump off. I stayed on to the bitter end. So I think those are the people who are making fun of me, even though I bet one of those weeks while watching WandaVision, they entertained the thought. They thought about it. They just didn't want to look stupid. Whereas, like, I've gotten a lot of theories wrong in New Rockstars over the years. Several. In fact, when Mephisto happened, I that wasn't even the dumbest thing that I had gotten wrong over the years. We still do it every year, a What We Got Wrong video. You can go back to watch the old ones, and there's insane stuff that I have theorized. Mephisto actually seemed like one of the more plausible theories. So Mephisto just kind of like, it broke me because I felt like misled by Paul Bettany and by the producers of the show. Not bitter, because overall I still really enjoyed the journey, but I felt like, okay, I didn't read, it made me afraid to theory craft too much. And I did pull my punches a bit for the Falcon the Winter Soldier, because I'm like, I don't want to lose all credibility. I'm okay with theorizing. I just want people to know when I'm goofing off with a theory, a reach theory, and then other theories, and I'm like, I think this might actually happen. Until Loki happened, and Loki, I got so excited with Loki, and I'm like, I'm definitely seeing nods to Kang, but A23 on Renslayer's Hunter TVA uniform feels as certain of a Kang reference as Unleash Hell Demon Spawn felt for Evan Peters in that moment. So I was really, really nervous going into the Loki finale, and the elevator doors open, and there was He Who Remains, and I literally paused the episode, and I went over to our bedroom, and I woke up Kelly, and I was like, I just need to hug you for a bit, because I was actually right this time, and I needed this. So since then, I feel like Marvel is aware of this phenomenon. And I think a lot of people have used Mephisto to bully me. There's been a lot of memes about it. I don't think all of it is bullying, and I'm generally okay with it. Some people were genuinely cruel and mean about it. I had to, for the first time on YouTube, I blocked people about it because they were like, I think they were angry at me for like theorize. I thought it was really weird because that had never happened before. That was new. But it's because we got 100,000 new subscribers who were not with us from the early years. And I think they subscribed because they really expected me to be right. They viewed me as like a meteorologist as opposed to just a fan. Like when I read Jeff Jensen's blogs on Entertainment Weekly, he would do like these these analyses that the 6 seasons of Lost were like the 6 Planet of the Apes movies, and I took that all with a grain of salt, but they were really fun to read, and I never like judged him for that. I appreciated him for that. But you know, YouTube is just a different world, and I think a lot of the people who found new rock stars during that era were less forgiving. So since then, we've had like little like devil nods in a lot of Marvel trailers. Spider-Man No Way Home, you know, Peter Parker's walking past the protesters and someone puts a protest sign with devil horns on his head that says devil in disguise. And for a second, we're like, ooh, maybe Mephisto, because there is the One More Day storyline where Mephisto gives Peter like an Elseworld second chance to be like anonymous or to not be Spider-Man, you know, so that's like, that I felt could be connected to it, but I'm like, they're doing so many other things in this movie. Miss Marvel had, like, you know, they had the motion graphics over her bully's head with devil horns. She-Hulk, that trailer, she's drinking devil wine. There's like a devil label brand wine. I think of all these, the only ones that I thought Mephisto might actually show up in was Werewolf by Night. Because my thinking is it has to be a horror show for it to be justified for Mephisto to show up. Otherwise, we're all going to balk. And then She-Hulk had, of course, Jake the Goat show up, who felt like a very overt Mephisto nod. Jake even had like a name tag that says, "Hi, my name is Jake." And I used to wear like a New Rockstars brand shirt that said, "Hi, I'm Erik Voss." As it seemed like, are they making fun of me here? I've learned to try to not to take things personally. But then it came out that we saw Thor: Love and Thunder come out on streaming, and you could specifically hear Zeus say Satan in the background when he says, "Now we'll give the award for the god who sacrificed, or the most number of people sacrificed in the name of a god. And the winner is," and you only hear him in the background, but he goes, "Satan!" And we know that Taika Waititi put Jesus in the off-screen background of it. So I'm like, okay, Satan, I think, is now enough. I've seen enough. I think he can be already established in the MCU, even if we haven't seen his face yet. And then it was speculated and reported that Sacha Baron Cohen is going to be playing Mephisto in Ironheart whenever that comes, which I was like, what? That doesn't make sense. That's a show about an engineer in Chicago. But then when you look into the hood, he has Dormammu as his spiritual link, and they already have Dormammu in another way, so I guess you could have him show up here. I still think tonally it's a weird fit. But specifically, I was at D23, and I saw Anthony Campos talk, and you could tell he was like really trying to not spoil something, and Kevin Feige was like, I'm going to cut you off now. It seemed like there was something going on there. So that's kind of where Mephisto is now. I look back on the process and I appreciate the journey. I do think Mephisto is already confirmed in the MCU. I know that's silly, but I think all these other details, I think the MCU wants us to think that this is now a world that has a Satan in it. And I think, to me, that's what Mephisto Confirmed is all about. It's a feeling, it's a vibe, it's the acknowledgement that evil exists. And I know that's kind of like a philosophical debate. Does evil really exist? And if evil does exist, does it come from some external spiritual cosmic force? Or is it something that is specific to mankind? That the way we mistreat each other is the evil. A lot of Christian theologians will look into this too. They'll debate whether when we commit an act of evil, is it a choice that we make, or is it the devil taking control of us to mistreat each other? I personally have a more humanistic approach. I want to give people more responsibility, because that means like we have a choice, we have a control over our own decisions, and it's not like we're giving in to a devil who puppets us. We do horrible things to each other, and we should face consequences for those things. But I do think that in the MCU, the fact that this is a mythological world that has things like Asgardian gods and other gods from other mythologies. We have Werewolf by Night with textbooks of ancient beasts and monsters that are all inscribed in Latin. This is the kind of world that has Mephisto in it already, and it's been there all along. And I'm excited for that. I think Mephisto changed the way I approach YouTubing because I now look at these projects with a more sobered mindset. I think I'm better at reading the tea leaves now. I learned to let go of putting all my hopes on one big character reveal. I think actually Star Wars does a better job revealing these characters because they don't put all of our hopes while we're watching these show on who they're going to reveal behind the curtain. When Luke Skywalker showed up, we were all genuinely surprised. In the most recent episode, the big cameo that shows up, none of us expected that. They're really good at keeping the secrecy here, and I think it makes for a better viewing experience because then you're only focusing on the characters that are in front of you instead of some mystery figure who's behind a curtain who may or may not show up. I know I've skipped a lot of super chats, so I'm going to quickly read a couple super chats. Thank you all for your support. We're going to shift into an AMA now in a moment. Just okay, yeah. Scrolling down through. Whiskey Bravo saw you. Okay, KW, what if Marvel has been introducing us to a whole new universe? Shang-Chi, Ms. Marvel, Moon Knight, and all the different universes to get us attached, and then both universes start to bleed together. I really like that approach for what Phase 4 has been, KW. Thank you for your super chat. Yeah, I think that'd be... the issue is a lot of these characters have already connected in the main Infinity Saga MCU continuity. So I think there are some other things like Werewolf by Night that could be in its own kind of Elseworld. But I think that seems to be what they're doing at DC. Like James Gunn has hinted, their Gods and Monsters plan. They're going to have some that are Elseworlds that stay Elseworlds. I think they'll definitely do that with things like, the Spider-Man reality, they already did that. But with the X-Men, I think the X-Men continuity already exists in the multiverse. And at some point through the events of Deadpool 3 and through maybe a future season of Loki and through Secret Wars, these things are just going to merge and we're going to see a big timeline map. I got to talk to a guy at Cantina Creative. They do such amazing work at that VFX company, and they talked about how they designed the TVA screens, the Chrono Monitor screens. He couldn't get into spoilers, which kind of told me okay, so the decisions you're making on what's on that screen are important for the future of the MCU. Thanks for telling me something without telling me something. Wow, we had a lot of super chats here. I'm sorry, guys. So I'm going to quickly go down here. Let's see. Oh, snap. It's Mikey EA. Just like you're doing for Guardians because I'm a new Rockstar super fan. I heard you say in another video, but do the same for Secret Invasion. I'm not sure what you mean for that. But yeah, I'm going to be covering Secret Invasion a whole bunch when that comes in June. I'm very excited. Ukarsh Gupta would love a deep dive into Wes Anderson and his style of filmmaking, please. He's my favorite director, and why actors love working for him. Love from India. I love Wes Anderson films. I'm really excited for Asteroid City. I love how blown out and overexposed all the imagery looks in that. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's something we could do on the deep dive. Look at some Wes Anderson movies. I think he is kind of a niche filmmaker, but I think more people should watch his stuff. Let's see. Oh, snap. It's Mikey. One more, kind of off topic, but I need you to deep dive into Westeros, please. Thank you. Now back to the devil, you dirty dog. When House of the Dragon comes back, I think we'll do a lot more Westeros explanation. The channel Alt Shift X does amazing work. He has a ton of great videos on the history of Westeros and Essos and Sothros. Check out some of his stuff in the meantime. Jennifer Peterson, I will defend you to the death from the trolls. Thank you. I need defenders like you. I need you on that wall. Nelson Castillo, keep doing an awesome job. I love all your videos. Do you think Daredevil will be a help with knowing who a Skrull is because he can tell who's lying? That's an interesting thought. He might play that role that Natasha Romanoff played in the Secret Invasion comics, right? She's really good at interrogating people and figuring out who's lying, who's being deceptive. And I think Daredevil, that is his superpower, is his heartbeat listening. Jessica and I did, I don't know if I could tell you that yet, but we did look at Daredevil recently, Daredevil season 1, and we kind of realized that's kind of Matt's superpower. Karoon, hi Eric, big fan from Vancouver. I'm curious about your movie viewing experience. Is your first watch watch like a starstruck fan who just enjoys the show, or do you start taking notes right away? Thank you. Thank you, Karoon, for your super chat. Good question, Karoon. It depends. When I am just watching a movie and I don't have an expectation that I'm going to be covering it for New Rockstars for the deep dive, I won't bring a notepad. I'll just sit back and watch it. But I think the way my brain works is it's always ticking. It's always on. It's hard for me to disassociate and just lean back and enjoy. My way of enjoying things is by processing it, by thinking about how did they make this shot, what are they referencing with it, what are they setting up for later in the movie, is this foreshadowing something? So I'm always doing that math in my head. When I'm covering a movie that I know I'm going to be breaking down for New Rockstars, I will have a notepad with me. And that's like a fun thing that, I got to meet a lot of these other critics and YouTubers and other influencers. And I am the one in the room who has a notepad and I'm scribbling through the dark. And trying to just transcribe literally everything I see. I won't look down. I'll just be like, okay. And when we watched Multiverse of Madness, like when Doctor Strange and America Chavez fly through the multiverse, I was like, writing out, okay, paint, okay, I see fish, okay, taxi cabs, I think that was an Evil Dead thing, same everything, okay, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And then like after it was over, I was like, and Kelly just put her hand on my shoulder. She's like, are you okay? I was like, I'm fine, but I'm going to have to watch this a couple more times to get this. Jay Swizzy, thank you so much. Bought my deep dive mug last night, Voss. Thank you, Jay Swizzy. I really appreciate your support. Let's see. Doc Daytona, I really want to send you $6.66 so you turn your phone upside down, I guess. I always believed in you. And the real Ralph, Eric, thank you, Doc. That's wonderful. Yeah, $9.99, $6.66. It was fun. I screen grabbed it last night after I posted this, that I would be doing this on our community thread. At some point, just when I checked it, it said that there were 666 likes on that announcement. And I screen grabbed it. I'm like, that's perfect. That's how you know the devil exists. PG says, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. Yep, absolutely. I think that's kind of like the go-to default explanation anytime people say that, well, where was the devil? It's like, well, he's playing a trick on you to make himself imperceivable, imperceptible. The Dalek says, hi, Eric. Huge fan of yours and New Rockstars. What would be your dream role cameo in the MCU if you could choose? Greetings from Vienna, Austria. I get asked this question a lot. I think, honestly, I think a plausible pitch to Marvel is just like have me be a YouTuber or like a super fan or something like that, or someone who is hosting a podcast that a character listens to. I don't need to be a superhero. I don't want to. I don't want that on my shoulders. Sometimes like they'll cast these like huge stars in ridiculous roles in these movies, and then they, because of the way they recut them, it like Christian Bale is one of the best actors, and they put him as Gore the God Butcher, and they cut everything that made Gore the God Butcher cool. So it's like, okay, well, I don't want to be cast as like some half-assed version of one of my favorite Marvel characters. So just kind of like, I don't know, Marvel's watching this like, well, we're not going to ever hire you now, asshole. So I might have just like doomed myself. Pookie says, do you think Cap is actually on the moon? And if so, do you think he will kill the Watcher? I don't think Cap's going to kill the Watcher. No way. He would never do that. But I do think Cap is either on the moon or in a space station somewhere. Jade McKitty says, is Sacha Baron Cohen Mephisto, Eric? I think that's been reported. I think that's confirmed. So he was reported to appear in Ironheart for at least one episode, maybe a small cameo. But now it sounds like they're going to be doing a Mephisto Disney Plus special presentation. I think that's the way to go. Just like 1 hour of Mephisto talking about the different ways he's like influenced the MCU. Originally, I thought that they might be doing that with Kang. We'll see what they're going to do with Kang now. I don't want to get into all that, but like, Mephisto is like another option of like someone else could be on the other end of that tug of war for trying to control the fates and the destinies of every character. Ryan Green says, love it, Eric. Off topic, but I'm hyped for this Mario movie next week, and I can't wait for Anna to break it down. She's awesome at it. I agree. Anna is so good at finding all those Mario Easter eggs. And yeah, she's going to be doing our breakdown of it. I think you're going to love it. I'm super excited for that movie. SZO Panther, She-Hulk season 2 with Mephisto scene. She-Hulk breaks the fourth wall and says, I hope Erik Voss is okay. The camera cuts to Eric in the blue dungeon watching the scene and he faints. That's a great pitch. I would love to do that. I would love to do that in the MCU. I think that is really kind of perfect. DJ, thank you for your super chat. What are you most excited for on the titles that have been announced, strictly from a fun perspective, not necessarily the most impactful? Well, to me, the most impactful is often the most fun, and Loki season 2 is by far what I'm most looking forward to. Other than that, the more we're hearing about Deadpool 3, the fact that they got Matthew McFadden in it from Succession, I have a lot of thoughts on like where he could go. My pitch for like Matthew McFadden is that he's similar to his character in Succession, Tom Wamsgans, in that he is an up-and-comer at the TVA. He's a suit just trying to make a name for himself, but like an aggressive prosecutor. The way that Mobius is kind of laid back and doesn't always want to like press forward on stuff, Matthew McFadden does. He's kind of like the anti-Mobius. And he's trying to make a name for himself at the TVA, and he is like Tommy Lee Jones in The Fugitive, insisted on pursuing these variants to the ends of the earth. And I think they should let him do his natural British accent. Watch this guy in interviews; it's gonna like really disturb you to hear him talk in his natural accent. But he's such a good actor. You know, we know him from Succession, but he's in a bunch of stuff, a bunch of like British projects. So yeah, he's an incredible actor. JB asks, also off topic, but how hyped are you for the Scott Pilgrim anime? I'm excited for potentially more Brie Larson songs. Yeah, they better have Brie Larson singing in that. I'm really excited for the Scott Pilgrim anime, and I think that's the way to do it. I'm a huge fan of what Edgar Wright did in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. I think it's such a well-edited film. It's really fun. And the fact that he's getting all the actors back, Kieran Culkin, all of them, I think this is going to be a really exciting project that feels even more similar to the experience of reading the source material. Let's see. Patrick Underwood says, "What's your beef with Ryan George?" I don't have a beef with Ryan George. I made a joke about Ryan George in an episode of Big Question back in the day, and I really regret it. I think Ryan George in everything he does at pitch meetings is like so good. He's really funny, and his videos are so well edited. And he's someone who, you know, there's a lot of this on YouTube of people being snarky about movies. And I think when I made that comment, I was just kind of like overreacting to the snark. But that was petty of me. I should have done that. He's so good. And he seems like such a really nice guy. And the jokes he makes seem to come from a place of love. So no beef with Ryan George. Let's see. I'm trying to tilt my head up so I can see. You know what? This is what I'll do here. I'll creep you all out by reading it here because I don't want to redirect my eye line. Stupid this late. B-Dubs says, "Hi, Eric. Been a watcher for years and years. I think you should be casted as one of the Watchers in the MCU." Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, just make me another Watcher. One of the variants of Jeffrey Wright's character. But I think Jeffrey Wright should be like the Watcher going forward. I would listen to that guy speak for years and years. I think he's such a good speaker. So I want to give you guys just like, we've been going for about 50 minutes now. Just going to give you guys a behind the scenes process at New Rockstars. And I'll be like looking through other questions here. So hit me up with your questions. I'm going to keep trying to like answer stuff. So New Rockstars we have the main channel. The Deep Dive is a new side channel where it's just going to be me over here at the Deep Dive. But on the main channel, that's where you see all the other hosts. And we're going to be making an announcement video, I think will be coming out today, that's going to talk about what's going on in the month of April at New Rockstars. We have a lot of really exciting projects. There's one specific project that's coming out tomorrow on the New Rockstars channel that I'm really pumped for. And we are really going to be asking you guys a lot what you most want to see from us. We, at the start of the year, made the promise to try to cover everything, and I think we've done a really good job of that. But like, you know, it's been a period of experimentation, and we don't want to burn out. We don't want to burn you out with stuff you don't want. So we're going to take this month to just recharge and figure out, like, just give you guys content you really want so you can keep those notification settings on and be really happy with everything that comes into your notification feed. But yeah, I started at New Rockstars in 2016 when it was just a really small operation. You know, it was founded by this guy named Danny Zappin, who is one of the Maker Studios guys. He's our founder and CEO to this day. And I was brought on board as a freelance writer in 2015 by my college buddy Philip. Some of you OG people may know him. And he was there in the early years getting us started and kind of turned us into a YouTube channel that covers movies with this in-depth analysis, specifically Marvel and Star Wars. And then he became the main host for a few months. And then he got a new job over at Break. So he brought me in as initially as just a writer, a freelance writer. But then I was able to make it a part-time thing and eventually a full-time thing. And while he was working at other places, he started working at SourceFed and wasn't allowed to be on camera at New Rockstars anymore. I took over as the main host. And this was in 2016. And then since then, we didn't know if we'd be able to keep this job full time all the time, which is why I'm so grateful to have the job now, because it really did seem like, well, I'm going to have to find a new job because nothing's really getting made right now at this channel. I don't really know who I report to anymore. But over time, I got into a good rhythm of being able to cover news. Like, my background is as a journalist. I got a degree in journalism at University of Florida, and then I wrote for Vulture. Now it's now Vulture. It was then Splitsider, covering comedy news, and I did reviews for Saturday Night Live. So I was able to kind of fuse all these different eras in my life, and then my fandom, my like obsession with watching TV shows and movies, into one thing in this job. And then I got to a good rhythm of it, and just deciding what movies I'm going to be covering, how I'm going to be covering them, what the thumbnail will look like. That all kind of fell into my lap, and I started working with editors like Devin Cleary. It was just me and Devin in an office for like 6 or 7 months every day, just figuring out what we were going to be doing. And it that was like 2018 ended up being such a successful year for us. I think just I got into this rhythm of covering that period between Infinity War and then the Endgame trailer. And I think that was our fastest period of growth, is when it was just me and Devin and another editor named Aaron, who's extremely talented, just kind of in a room together. And it was simple and it was great and it was a lot of fun. That's when we did our Dark Knight rewatch. I did and then going into 2019, I decided one day, I'm like, I want to break down the Matrix, and we did a Matrix breakdown and it did really well. Like, it was like in many ways my favorite time at New Rockstars. Since then we've had a lot of great stretches of time, and we've brought new people on the team that I genuinely love, and they're people who have been my friends for years, and I'm glad we could bring them on board. And we're at this place now. I mean, and then WandaVision happened. I mean, COVID hit, and we really thought we were going to lose our jobs, because at the end of 2019, we had some big plans for 2020. We were going to take the show on the road. We were going to be launching all these podcasts, and we couldn't do any of it because movie news just disappeared for a year. So WandaVision was like our light at the end of the tunnel, and we had a lot of luck, a lot of just blessings coming out of WandaVision that set our channel on this course where we could just like cover a lot of things at once. We brought a lot of people on board then, and we just started to blow up in 2021 and 2022, and like we went from making like 4 or 5 videos a week to making like 20 videos a week. It was just an insane period of experimentation the past couple years. So we're kind of catching up with like figuring out what kind of projects we most want to work on and what we're most excited to do. And we still want to cover everything, but we're just going to be like smart about covering things in a way that it's quality over quantity. I almost did that thing that the guy, the producer on Everything Everywhere All at Once did during the Oscars. Did you guys see that? Where he was like, the most important rule I've learned in Hollywood is that no person is more important than profits. And I think he meant to change it, but he was basically, telling us the truth about the way Hollywood really works, is that they always put profits over people. And that's a bummer. Gonna take a couple more super chats here. Let's see. David, Eric would be cast as an extra, who says an Easter egg. Yeah, I think that'd be a great role for me in the MCU. Kevin says, if you could cast someone for Mephisto, what actor would you pick if not Sacha Baron Cohen? I mean, Jack Nicholson, really. I think Nicholson, especially rewatching Batman, he'd be incredible. John says, Eric, we would never get burnt out. We watch everything by New Rockstars and Deep Dive. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Low Key says, guys, make sure to hit the like on your way out or way in. Supports Eric and the algorithm. Let's do this. Yeah, appreciate that, Low Key. Absolutely. Everyone do that. Who will win in a fight, Brightburn or Damian Wayne? Let's see. Brightburn? I don't know. I don't want to have the other one come after and fight me. Yeah, so what New Rockstars is doing right now, people ask like, well, how does New Rockstars work? Who's running? New Rockstars is run by like a really amazing brain trust, what we call a flat leadership committee, like a team. So right now on the main New Rockstars channel, my role is as a host, writer, and executive producer. But running the content team is Brandon Barrick. He is our programming director, and he's been doing an amazing job. He oversees all the content decisions. It all comes through him. Also on that team is our producer, John Costa, who's just like also an extremely talented people who was there with us during COVID and has such a strong knowledge of a lot of different areas and disciplines. And he is the producer of The Break Room and a bunch of other projects that we have in the works. Zach Huddleston is our director of sales. So he kind of oversees the brand integrations for stuff, and he also appears on The Break Room. Also one of the funniest people I know. All 3 of these guys are really, really funny. Someone who never really gets talked about a lot, and I don't want to like put her in the spotlight if she doesn't want to, because sometimes people behind the scenes want to stay behind the scenes. But Patty Miller is our operations head and has saved New Rockstars in so many ways over the past year. 2022 was very hard for us, and without her, I don't know if we'd still be around as a company. We would have had like everyone quit, I think. So she is like such a critical part of everything we do at New Rockstars. So she is our vice president of operations. And then we have our post production coordinator, Riley. Riley is also part of that team. He oversees all of our editors. So I think I got everyone. Yeah, this team collectively is kind of our flat management team. And then as a committee, we kind of decide the big decisions at New Rockstars. We all report up to the executive team, but that is kind of like, that's the way New Rockstars is structured. So we have like our content team. We're trying to grow things sustainably by bringing in like writer producers and different roles who can help us out in different things. But I think a lot of people will come to me and say, hey, I'd love to work for New Rockstars. And I don't want to say this in like in a snobby way, but like, I want to tell people, no, I don't know if you would like working at New Rockstars. I think the people who work there, it's the best group of people I've ever worked with, but it's just the work is really demanding. It's really hard. The kind of help we need at New Rockstars is like the less fun parts of the job. It's staying up till 3 a.m. watching episodes of The Mandalorian, and not just like watching it as a fan. It means translating every letter of Aurebesh and doing it on a deadline and not screwing it up so that someone else has to go over your work. It is knowing every single thing about Zeb when he shows up in an episode of Mandalorian. It's like not getting a whole lot of sleep. It's writing on deadline and writing like several thousands of words by the end of the day, and that being your full-time job. It's kind of like liking Marvel and Star Wars a little bit less because it's your full-time job. So I don't know if like doing New Rockstars work is for everybody. I think you have to have like a background in journalism. You have to have a background in like video production, and it's like, I would say it might just be more fun to be an insurance adjuster or something like that, a loan officer at a bank, because then you could just have a house and live somewhere where houses are affordable. Yeah, I make YouTube videos in like a closet in my apartment, so I don't know if my life is so much better than anyone else's. But I'm fortunate to have the work I do just because I don't think I could really do anything else. I tried being a production associate on a TV show, and I was really bad at that job. I wanted for a long time to be a writer in a writer's room on a sitcom, and based off of friends who have had that job before, I don't think I would be very good at it. I think it would suck. I think I would probably have a panic attack and never get my scripts done, because the way I write is like, I'm not that great at like writing a script together or like implementing notes from like a bunch of different people. I'm good at just like, here's my draft. I know it's not perfect, but here it is. We're putting it off the table. I don't have to think about it anymore. On to the next project. That's the way I work. I'm going to try to take a few more super chats. I want to try to get to all of them. Santiago says, do you think that Earth 616 and the fact that the 616 and the number of the beast are related or just a coincidence? Well, we know from the history, that's why 616 was chosen. The original comics writer who came up with that, I believe it was in an 80s Thor or Captain America comic, he chose 616 because it was 666, the number of the beast, but 50 off. So that is, Mephisto is kind of embedded in the history of 616. Yeah, I missed that one. I missed that super chat. I keep seeing some other ones come through, so I'm sorry if there's a delay. Someone asks, why San Francisco? I've been there a bunch. Just curious on your take on the hilly, foggy city. Haha, do wish you guys were all together in the same place to create HQ. So I think, oh snap, it's Mikey asking, why do I live in San Francisco? Well, I live in San Francisco, because I love it. I love this city. My wife works for Pixar, which is in the East Bay. That's in Emeryville. So we moved up here so that she could work at Pixar, and we're kind of ready for a change. So that's why we're up here. But like, also, we made that move right in the middle of COVID too, so we're kind of like, we can live really anywhere. I can do my job from home. So yeah, that's why we live here. But I love this city. I know when people come visit it, they have their perceptions of like the city and what's going on and how there's like a lot of homelessness. I think there's a lot of homelessness in a lot of cities. The difference with San Francisco is all the hotels are in the Tenderloin district. So people will think that the whole city's overrun with homeless people. I mean, homelessness is like a national pandemic. I think every city is dealing with it, and I think it is something that we need to invest more and come up with more solutions on. But I just think it's more in your face in San Francisco than it is in other cities. And you can't get an Airbnb in San Francisco, so I think that's it. Like, if people could get Airbnb, stay in a different neighborhood, they might have a different experience. So I always tell my friends, come stay with me. And then Kelly's like, don't say that to all of our friends because people are going to take us up on that more. I was like, you're right. Our dog will be so mean to them if they come visit. Darla just is so protective of us. That's why. Let's see. Jennifer Peterson says, "Did you enjoy your Actually appearance? Is there a way to get back on? I love Voss crossing over to other places. I love that. The way I got on Actually is Jessica Clemens hooked me up with that. She's working with all of them as well. And I think they tried to get me on for this season. It's just being in a different city, and they're shooting it in person. We couldn't get our schedules to work out, but I love what they do there. JJ Gaming says, I'd love to get your thoughts on current state of fan/internet demand versus studios. Do you ever feel like what you say or want in the future may actually affect a future flick? I don't think I have a direct effect on their studio decisions. I think they're going to do what they're going to do. But I think we're still in the middle of this like transition of like how to fan correctly. I don't know if there is one right way to fan, but like I think people are getting a little bit better about being open-minded with fandoms, and I think people are getting a little aware of like red flags of gatekeeping red flags and learning not to engage with that kind of stuff. But I am a little worried about how headcanon has replaced actual canon. How people will see things like concept art leaks or rumors or scoops and think that that is now the actual news and Marvel's actual plan, and will judge what they see based off of what some scooper told them. So I think there's like, I don't blame the fans. I don't really blame the culture, because the culture is the culture, and it's too democratized and spread out to like demand better of the internet, because the internet's just gonna be what it is. But I do think Marvel and these other studios needs to do a more proactive job of fan expectation and expectation management. They need to be more careful about like how they explain what their plan is. I don't think they can afford to just be so secretive anymore. I think you can be secretive about plot details, but then if you're going to be secretive about plot details, be very careful about how you craft your trailers. I think some directors are really good about this. I think James Gunn is really good at it. I think Christopher Nolan might be the best at it, because Christopher Nolan's trailers are like little weird short films that just kind of give you a sense of the feeling of a project. But like I think the studio machine wants to explode that opening weekend, and they think that the way to do it is by inundating us with trailers that show us MODOK. I think if we didn't know MODOK was coming in Quantumania, I think we all would have been less judgmental over how Corey Stoll looked in that movie. Let's see. Derek asks, would New Rockstars ever cover pro wrestling? I hear you and Tommy make references occasionally, maybe a WrestleMania breakdown series. Yeah. Not just Tommy, Zach and Brandon are really into wrestling as well. I think there is a world where we cover wrestling. I don't think we're in a place right now where we can do it, but like we should. We absolutely should. Omar says, hi Eric, do you think the Infinity Stones tug of war from What If will be resolved in What If Season 2, or will it cross over in the live action MCU? I mean, I did not expect What If to be connected in one storyline there, and the fact that it was by the end of it blew my mind. It made me really love. I mean, I loved What If on its own before that, but I was just really impressed with what they accomplished with that season. So yeah, I think those two are going to come back in Season 2. I know I say a lot. I'm sorry. I use it to take a breath. Mikey says, I could see the Batman inventing the freeze grenade technology to defeat Clayface, and in the third movie, Mr. Freeze steals the research and makes his freeze gun. Yeah, Mr. Freeze, I believe, we know Clayface is coming back in the second Batman movie. I'm excited to see, like, a truly good, grounded Mr. Freeze. I mean, nothing against Arnold Schwarzenegger, but, like, the Batman animated series, Mr. Freeze, that episode is one of my favorite episodes of that. I think, yeah, I'm excited to see their take on it. Sarah asks, can you please give us a Darla cameo today? No, if I try to, like, she's so weird. If I give her too much attention and I say, you have to, hey, come here, she thinks I'm mad at her. She's so protective of Kelly. Like, Kelly, like, is like our dog whisperer. But, like, you know, Darla's a rescue. She had a whole life before we adopted her. And so the poor pup just has these weird little triggers, and we just try to be mindful of that. But if I, like, suddenly give her too much attention. She thinks like, oh, what did I do? What did I do? And if I try to go over to her and pick her up, she'll pee. So I don't want to clean up pee right now. So that's why she's not getting cameo. But if you watch her John Wick deep dive, Darla did watch a scene with me, and the only way that worked is like Kelly picked her up and then put her in my arms, and Kelly stood right here, right off screen. So that's why. Okay, so if you have any other questions, I know I've mostly just taken super chats here. So, Fluffy Man says, does New Rockstars have any plans to break down the Friday Nights at Freddy movie when it comes out? Not currently, but I think we should explore more of that stuff. Because that's obviously really popular, and there's some really cool stuff that they're doing there. DJS, can you please do more AMAs like this? I love that we can interact with you in real time. I feel like we can reach out and touch you. I won't, though. I won't. Thank you for not doing some weird Venom move and reaching through your screen. Or it was Carnage who did that, right? Not Venom. But yes, thank you. Yeah, I really like doing these too. I'm going to try to do them more often. It just, I've been here for an hour, 10 minutes. I got so much work I got to do today. But this is something I really wanted to do because I felt bad that we had to push our Interstellar deep dive. I wanted to have something with you guys today. And a quick programming reminder about the break room. So today at 3 p.m. on the New Rockstars channel, please watch the break room. It's going to be their season finale. They're going to take a month to kind of build a new set, transition to from the actual New Rockstars break room to our back studio. They're going to come back with an amazing new set in May for their 1-year anniversary. So join them for that season finale. They've done such amazing work over the past year, so I hope you guys all watch that. Berta says, do you think part of the reason Marvel crams so much into Phase 4 is because the characters needed for Phase 6? I don't know if that's what they were thinking of. I honestly think they were going to space it out more and have some of these things come out in 2020. Then COVID happened, so they still wanted all these things to still come out so that they can make back some money from the losses. And they wanted Disney. They went aggressive with Disney Plus with subscribers. But the thing is, they didn't do enough with having great archive content. For whatever reason, people aren't streaming The Simpsons the way they're streaming The Office on Netflix. And the reason Netflix was able to get great market share is for a while they had both Friends and The Office. Since now they don't. Now to watch The Office, you got to watch Peacock. But like, you got to have these legacy old shows that people want to stream. I think that is like the driving force of streaming. It's just kind of like comfort food content. And these 6-episode one-off runs, they just haven't been as successful at getting people to stay subscribed. Let's see, Poisoned Wit, instead of specific movies and filmmakers, would you just do breakdowns of aspect of filmmaking, like directing, cinematography, writing, etc., by comparing different styles? I think that'd be fascinating. Yeah, Poisoned Wit, I do try to like try to make that a part of everything that I do. I think, unfortunately, on YouTube, to just package a video around like the secrets of filmmaking, like not enough people are going to watch that, and they're going to watch some other stupid video instead. So I kind of got to like invite them to the conversation. Then once they're at the campfire, then I entertain them with my with my lectures as best I can. But I think hopefully we can get more creative in the way that we package these things. Let's see, Jennifer, you ask, did Voss register any opinions on the Jonathan Majors scandal, Twitter, or anything like that? I'm choosing to address this right now, just to let everyone know how I feel about this, because I don't want people to think like I'm avoiding talking about it. Yeah, so Jonathan Majors, it was reported, got arrested in New York last weekend. Jonathan Majors, the actor who plays Kang in the MCU. It is a developing investigation. And I think it is really premature that a lot of people on YouTube and on Twitter, people who are like normally news authorities on these things, are already weighing in on this. I get it if you're like the New York Times or the Hollywood Reporter and you're a journalist and you have like some journalistic credibility, but if you're just someone who normally reacts to movies, what legal authority do you have? Not legal authority to talk about it. Obviously, we have freedom of speech. We can say whatever we want. But what legal expertise do you have to weigh in on like the legal implications? I think it's a little dangerous to make videos with Jonathan Majors' arrest in the thumbnail. I get it. I get why people are doing it. I just don't want to do it. Like, despite having a background in journalism and knowing that every time you talk about this, you have to say reportedly, you have to attribute the police or the lawyer or someone who has made a statement. It's so dishonest, or it's just dangerous for any other entity to weigh in, because so much of this is being fought in the court of public opinion. And I don't have all the facts. All I know is that his lawyer has said that he's completely innocent. His lawyer has released these supposed text messages from the girlfriend saying that she didn't mean to do this to Jonathan Majors. And I think they're doing this because all these things are fought in the court of public opinion. Like the Army already pulled the recruitment ad that Jonathan Majors was in, or reworked it, and they don't want him to lose. They don't want Jonathan Majors to lose his contract with Marvel. So they're aggressively trying to put as much news as they can out there. And I think if I were to make a video and just put Jonathan Majors in the thumbnail, I think I'd be playing into it. I just kind of want to wait to see how the court proceedings move forward. And I don't really care that much right now how it affects like the future of the MCU. I think it's just premature to weigh in on that stuff. And I would ask you, just for context, it's just such a charged thing, and I think a lot of people don't want it to. I don't think people want to jump the gun. I think a lot of fans are worried that it's going to be like we're taking this away from people, and I don't want to play a role in that. And I'm just, whenever you hear these stories of assault, your heart should just immediately go to the person who was hospitalized and hope that they're okay. Because not just like the physical injuries, like the mental injuries that people are going through. Like, just try to make that your priority. And whatever, movies will figure themselves out. It'll be fine. But also, if you really want to bum yourself out about it, if you're going to go down this rabbit hole, have fun looking at the history of all the actors in the MCU and the messy lives they have behind the scenes. Just Google Josh Brolin 2004. I mean, if you think that Marvel cannot be led by people who have done pretty complicated, messy things in their lives, just Google Josh Brolin 2004. Do some Googling on Jeremy Renner. Sorry, now that we're in the middle of a live stream here, can we talk about how weird the editing was of that Diane Sawyer interview promo for Jeremy Renner? Like, don't get me wrong, my heart goes out to Jeremy Renner for that horrible accident he went through, but the editing of that promo looks so weird. It looks like something from The Boys. It looks like a parody of it's so weird. So, look, I think I think for everything we do, this is just, I don't have the answers on. I think everyone to their own extent has to figure out how to separate the art from the artist sometimes. I'm already talking about like Jonathan Majors is guilty, and he's not yet or ever. We don't know. I don't know. We don't have all the facts yet, so I don't want to speculate on this. But I'm just saying, like, yeah, just have fun looking at the personal lives of all these actors, because like this industry drives people crazy. I think I've gone on soapboxes and personal conversations that I don't think we should allow children to be in movies and TV shows. We should play them with puppets and VFX and 18-year-old adults, because I think like this industry drives kids crazy and it ruins their lives. And it's just time after time again. Is it worth it to have a Stranger Things or an E.T. so that we can, I mean, not all the kids who worked on Stranger Things or E.T. had their lives ruined, but they did have their childhoods taken from them. Like, I don't know. I'm okay watching stories about adults. Like, I don't know how I feel about this. I feel weird about how having a lot of friends who work in the industry, it's just like toxic. It just drives people crazy. Yeah, Liam's saying, can you get back to the devil, please? Well, am I not talking about the devil right now, Liam? I'm sorry. We're late in a live stream. Of course I'm going to go off on tangents. Whatever. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have gone off. But this is what you get when you get live me. I'm just going to start randomly ranting. And I'm going to regret saying some of these things, I'm sure. Anyway, it's not all bad. We've had a lot of good experiences with child actors where they've been able to have great lives and great careers. So I don't know. I get worried about the welfare of everybody in front of a camera and everybody who works in a show. And I think we just need to worry about making sure people are taken care of with health benefits, with guardians, with all this stuff, with lawyers who are actually looking after their interests, and with unions. Yes. Okay. I'm going to try to answer just a couple more questions. Oh, great. As soon as I brought it up, now that's all everyone's talking about. Erik Voss, do a deep dive about Who Framed Roger Rabbit. That's on my list. I would love to do just a Zemeckis series. I'm actually going to try to appear on a friend's podcast where they break down Who Framed Roger Rabbit 1 minute at a time. I need to find a time to record that with them, but I love Who Framed Roger Rabbit. B-Dubs fam, I'm watching the live stream right now. Can you tell me what your super chat was? I can't scroll back up, so I'll keep an eye out. I do want to answer your super chat as best as I can. I'll keep an eye out for you. I get it, Liam. I love you, buddy. Hey, Eric, I love something about Lost here. Is there something you might do in the future? Yeah, actually, I got a big project in the works about ABC's Lost. I can't talk about it yet, but something else is happening here. Yeah, and then what about a deep dive of Twin Peaks? Yeah, I think the fact that I grew up watching Twin Peaks and watching Lost and watching X Files, these kind of creepy shows, is a big reason why I kept seeing Mephisto everywhere in WandaVision. That was a big part of it. So yeah, I don't know if I would do a deep dive of Twin Peaks, but I do want to talk about it a lot. I got a lot of other things I want to talk about first before I get there. Um, the new Rockstars moderator. What? Erik? Oh, we're talking about the Lost thing, I bet. I can't talk about it yet. Shush. Shush. No, I'm not going to tell you, new Rockstars moderator. No, no, it's a secret. You know, it's probably just a Twitter thread. That's what I mean. I just don't want to talk about it yet. Um, uh, I'm sorry, B-Dubs fan. Yeah, I want to respond to your super chat. I just can't see it. I need to scroll back up to what it was. Um, Liam, yes, have you seen the Netflix show Dark? It is a phenomenal show. I completely agree. I love the way they do time travel there. I believe it's one of the few titles to span multiple different types of time travel. It's mostly a this always happened form of time travel, but it also does some other wrinkles. It's incredible. Watch it with the do not watch it with the dubbing. Watch Dark with the German subtitles and read, you fools, read, because you want to hear these German actors emote and act, and they're also good on that show. I just like the dubbing throws me off. Also, if you listen to the dubbing and the subtitles at the same time, they're different. They're different. The people who did the subtitles and people who did the dubbing, they change things that are like a slightly different context to the line. So I want when I watch something to be as accurate to what the writer of it wrote and what the director of it shot. I don't want like someone else in the mix interpreting it for me, which is maybe just my Catholicism. I want to read the text. I don't want someone interpreting it. Wait, that's the opposite. Catholicism does interpret. I need to go back to church. I'm sorry. I'm looking for what you wrote, B-Dubs. I'm sorry, buddy. Oh, wait, no. Okay, why does everybody act like the Arrowverse doesn't exist? Is that your question? The Arrowverse did with the Spider-Man No Way Home. And you know they saw that and they're like, damn it, why did this Flash movie keep getting delayed? And that kind of frustrated them. Yeah, I think it's just, I think people act like the Arrowverse doesn't exist just because not a lot of people watch it. And it is going after a different audience. So yeah, I don't think you can hold that against everybody for not watching something, you know? And I try to remind that of people when it comes to Star Wars. I think you can be a fan of Star Wars without having seen every single episode of Clone Wars and Rebels. I think there's just so much Star Wars out there. If you haven't seen every episode of Bad Batch or every episode of even The Mandalorian, like you should be able to watch Star Wars and kind of drop in. You should be able to call yourself a Star Wars fan and only having seen the films. You know, I think a fandom works better when it's a big tent and everyone's trying to do like the same thing and just kind of find an excuse to give people member berries. So that's what they were doing with Arrowverse, and I'm sure Marvel wanted to do that long before that too. Okay, I think we're good. I think we're gonna call it there. Although I did see another super chat, I just want to make sure. I'm really sorry if I missed any super chats. GBG asked, would you guys cover anything on Doctor Who now that Disney has given additional funding? You know, MT is a huge Doctor Who fan. We have a new writer-producer on our staff named Gina, who's really talented and super experienced and is a huge Doctor Who fan as well. We're going to try to find a way to do some Doctor Who content on the new Rockstars Network. Okay, so thank you all so much. I hope I was able to illuminate something about Mephisto. I'm sure I'm going to watch this back and be like, damn it, I forgot to tell them about that. But essentially, yeah, this has been my AMA, my live AMA, about my history with Mephisto, my history with New Rockstars, the best job I've ever had. And I'm just so grateful to be able to do this. I'm grateful for all of you for hanging out with me on a Friday morning for an hour and a half. This has been a blast. I really love being able to chat with all of you, and this is great. Continue to subscribe to the deep dive, please. I know we said we're gonna have Interstellar out today. I just wanted to dig more into the themes of that movie, and you'll see what I'm talking about when you see it next week. It's the most emotional video I've ever made, and I wanted to do it right. So it'll come out April 7th. Derek, you asked, do you still do improv? Yes, I'm doing improv tonight in San Francisco at Endgames Improv at 9 p.m. It's called Your Effed Up Relationship. You can get tickets online. I'll be there tonight, and I'll be there on April 7th on my birthday. So if you want to come see a really funny improv show, you can come check that out. All right, everybody. You're the best. Thank you all for joining me. Be kind to each other out there. Watch The Break Room today at 3 p.m. And I love you all. See you next time. Bye. There it is.